Welcome back. We're discussing the big takeaways, highlights of the SCO meeting in Goa with Victor Gao, Vice President for Center for China and Globalization, Brahma Chellaney, Strategic Affairs expert, Michael Kugelman, South Asia expert at the Wilson Center, Hamid Mir, columnist at the Washington Post. Michael, do you think this visit would only give a chance to Russia to deepen their relations with all SCO partners, give a chance to Lavrov to brief all foreign ministers, SCO foreign ministers, on Russia's view on the Ukraine war and how it plans to continue fighting it? Do you see relations between SCO nations deepening further in the months to come?
Well, I would certainly argue that the SCO is one of the few regional and indeed global organizations where Russia is welcome. Russia doesn't have any enemies within SCO. It has quite a few friends. And you contrast that with the G20, where we saw that it was very difficult. The G20 meetings that have taken place this year and last year, for that matter, very difficult for them to be effective and to reach consensus on anything, just because you had the U.S. and several other Western countries that are so violently at odds with Russia, given what it's doing in Ukraine, that it wasn't really possible to move forward. It's very different with SCO. So indeed, yes, I think this is one of the rare forums where Russia would be in a position to engage with other members in ways that could lead to some broader consensus on the various goals that animate SCO. But that said, let's be very clear. None of the countries in SCO, besides Russia, including China, support what Russia is doing. Everyone wants the war to end. So it would have been nice if there could have been an opportunity for a country like India, or China for that matter, to have a bilat with Lavrov on the sidelines and to deliver a message that there needs to be restraint, there needs to be efforts to de-escalate. This is, of course, something that Prime Minister Modi has delivered directly to Putin in the past. I don't think that those types of conversations happened within this session. We'll see what happens when the Leaders' Summit takes place in New Delhi in July. But yeah, short answer to your question is that Russia's comfort level within the SCO deliberations would be much higher than it would be in the G20, where it would face the wrath of the members from the West, the U.S. in particular, that are obviously so opposed to what Russia is doing in Ukraine.
Okay, Victor Gao, very briefly, my final question to you. Do you see relations between India and China improving? When Xi Jinping visits India for the SCO summit and later for the G20 Leaders Summit in September, will there be a plan to somehow end this standoff when it comes to China's solution to what's happening at the LAC? What is that version and how can this be resolved according to China?
Thank you very much. I think the expected visits by the Chinese President Xi Jinping to India for the G20 as well as for the SCO summit later this year will be very important, not only for the multilateral gatherings, but also for China-Indian relations. From the Chinese perspective, we have all the eagerness to make a final resolution of the border disputes, but then both sides need to be objective and need to be decent in dealing with each other. And I don't think the line of actual control is the final border between China and India. We really need to be very careful in analyzing the origins of the border disputes and try to make sure that the border disputes are eventually put behind us. Because after all, both China and India are the only two superpopulations, meaning each country has a population of above 1 billion people. And as superpopulations, we have extra responsibilities, not only for our own people, but for each other and for the rest of mankind. Therefore, I do have confidence that India and China will eventually demonstrate sufficient amount of wisdom, vision, courage to sort out their border disputes. And your other panelist mentioned about India's role in the world of today. I would want to emphasize that it will be a surreal and dangerous world if India loses its own independence of making up for its own foreign policy. India has always pursued an independent foreign policy as a leader of the non-aligned movement, etc. And I do believe that India will keep
All right.
its own independence of mind, and rather than being subjugated to any other big power in the world.
India has always been clear that it wants a complete status quo at the LAC as it existed before the Galwan clashes. We'll have to leave it there. Hamid Mir, Michael Kugelman, Brahma Chellaney, Victor Gao, thanks once again for joining us with the highlights, big takeaways from the SCO meet in Goa. That's a wrap. Goodbye.